Welcome to the J. Kim Show, Hong Kong's first dedicated podcast on investing in Asia. Join us as we survey the land and discover the greatest companies and most profitable investment opportunities in Asia. If this is your first time listening, thank you for stopping by. This podcast is produced every week with the goal of providing actionable insights to you, the listener, with every single episode. And now, on to the show. Hey listeners, I'm happy to announce that the J. Kim Show is an official media partner and supporter of the Inside Retail, retail's cutting-edge vertical at the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival at the end of January. The actual event is on the 31st of January, which is a Wednesday, and it's going to be an all-day event at the Hong Kong Convention Center. It's going to be an action-packed day full of seminars, panels, pitching, networking, and of course, cocktails. As a media partner, I also get a special 20% discount code for my listeners. So if you're interested, head on over to live.insideretail.hk/register. That's live.insideretail.hk/register and use the promo code JKIM20OFF. That's JAYKIM, the number 20, and off, all in one word. All right, hope to see you there. So it's officially been 1 year since I first launched the J. Kim Show, which I launched this time last year in conjunction with the 2017 Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival. And because of that and the support that InvestHK gave me to launch this show, I always try to give back a little bit and help support them where I can. Now, the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival is one of the two largest conferences here in Hong Kong, the other one being Rise, which takes place in the summer. Start Me Up Hong Kong is an entire week full of great speakers, panelists covering everything from fintech, connected city, retail, health tech, and of course, the flagship venture forum where we had Elon Musk come speak 2 years ago. So this year, I'll be doing a 2-episode special to help support the cause, and it will be in the Inside Retail vertical, and I'll be interviewing 2 world-class entrepreneurs this week from Hong Kong who have started their own companies within retail. And so we're going to talk about the future of retail. This week, I speak with Sarah Chessis, who is the founder of Isabella Wren. Isabella Wren is a Hong Kong studio dedicated to tailoring specifically for professional women. We talked to her today about her long career in banking, the life-changing event that caused her to want to leave her career in banking and pursue entrepreneurship, and the cutting-edge technology that she is incorporating into her company that is a potential game changer for the industry. All right, let's get on to the show. Hi, Sarah. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jay. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm super excited because, my podcast actually launched this time last year at this very event, the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival. And I was able to interview some of the people in the Inside Retail vertical. And I'm honored to be able to interview and help support it again this year. So I'm super excited. For the listeners listening in, it's the Retail Cutting Edge is on January 31st. And that's at the Convention Center. And it's a week long, and it's part of the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival 2018. So listeners listening in, I would highly recommend you guys checking it out. Get your tickets online. And it's one of the 2 largest conferences in Hong Kong, the other one being Rise in the summer. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But today we are here to talk about Sarah, because Sarah is doing some really cool, interesting stuff in the retail space and with technology. So Sarah, maybe you could give us a little bit of an introduction to the audience. Who are you and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, sure. So you said my name's Sarah Chessis, and I am the founder and CEO of Isabella Wren. Isabella Wren, for anybody who has not heard of us, we're a custom clothing company. Our focus is professional women, and we have created a marriage of technology with fashion.
Right. That's a very succinct and it's a great sort of elevator pitch. I feel like, okay, I get it right to the point. I love it. We're going to go into exactly what that is and the technology, the cool technology that you've acquired and you're using there. But maybe you could give us a little bit of background because, I know that you've done a number of different things and now you are full-time sort of entrepreneur and founder of a company, but this wasn't what you always did. So maybe you can shed a little bit of light on your past, and perhaps what drove you to embark down the fun-filled the journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So basically, I started my career in London as a stockbroker, and that took me to Hong Kong and then on to Singapore. And that career went on for almost 20 years. And, during that journey, I reached a point in my life where so what to sort of take it back a bit further, what happened for me in my career was, I think I was in the sort of market at the time when everything was exploding with hedge funds, and things were getting busier and busier, and sales were becoming busier and busier and more successful, and I kind of just stopped. I just kind of didn't get to the point where I ever got married and had children. Well, I always just thought it would happen, and I found myself in Singapore, and I wasn't married, and I didn't have children, and the financial crisis came along, and for me, I thought, you know what, this is my opportunity. I've always wanted to have children, and I was thinking about it a lot, and I started the adoption process. So I made a decision to be a single mother. So
oh wow,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. So I started the adoption process, and I think the fact that it was a financial crisis, and people don't tend to have babies when their finances are unstable, generally, and but it didn't deter me. So I started the process, and I kind of actually thought, well, what will be, and I was given a home study report telling me that I had met all the requirements to adopt, and that I should sort of brace myself, because you could wait years for babies to come up for adoption, and literally 7 days after they handed me that report, I had a newborn baby in my arms.
What? No way. Now, wait a minute. Sorry. Is this was the process carried out in Singapore? Was it?
It was while I was in Singapore, and
okay.
So, I always think I'm like special and different in some ways. I think that when someone says to me, "No," there's a way. No, never. Yeah. No, there's always a way you can do something, right?
That's right, yeah.
So they sort of advised that, it's very difficult for foreigners to adopt in Singapore, but in Malaysia, there were lots of orphanages, and the same thing in Indonesia. So my original idea was to adopt a baby from overseas. So I did the home study report, and with the intention of adopting overseas. So when I went to the British Embassy to get my letter of authority, they said, I don't know what it was about you didn't understand that you cannot adopt a child from Indonesia or Malaysia. They said, okay, just to put this into context, the babies that are put up for adoption from those countries are not given up because they are, there's any kind of drug or alcohol issues. They are given up because the family are so poor they cannot afford literally to feed any one more person. Right. And if you go ahead and you adopt that baby and that family wins some money or inherits some money, they're going to come after that baby, and you've got to give it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that kind of sunk in then. It's like, okay, when you put it like that, actually, maybe. But what happened was, the agency that I'd been dealing with was he's all the agencies in Singapore deal with different kind of criteria in terms of where the adoptive parents are from and where the adopted babies are from, and he only dealt with Singaporeans. The Singaporeans are allowed to adopt from Indonesia and Malaysia, but expats are not. So he just so happened to have a Singaporean baby that had come up for adoption, and I just happened to be the only person he had on his books at that time who was interested in a Singaporean adoption. So
no way.
Yeah, it was kind of meant to be. And he said, your baby will be born in about a week or 10 days, and literally 2 days later she was born. And
that's incredible.
Yes, and that's why the company is called Isabella Wren, because that's the little girl's name.
Now, was that the name that you gave her, or that was the name that she came with, or?
Well, actually, her name was Angel, which I kept, her middle name. So she's Isabella Angel.
That's amazing. That's such a cool story, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that. That's very personal, and I appreciate that. I think the audience will actually really enjoy that.
But you know what? It's all kind of part of the journey, because the reason I left banking was because for me, when I was at school, I always wanted to be a fashion designer, and And I became an accidental stockbroker, but I really wanted to do fashion design. And, I can't imagine it happening today, but back then I was told that I was good, but not good enough to do that. And so I did it as a hobby, really. So I sort of drew and designed and had clothes made my whole life, pretty much. And when I had the opportunity to come to Hong Kong and set up basically it was a online selling a Chinese brand internationally online, and to set that up. And what I just became, very aware that I had my own ideas about. I think my ideas are fairly commercial. It was at that time I thought, I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny and to be able to, I was really naive. I think anybody who starts a company, any entrepreneur, has to be really naive, because, the less naive you are, the less likely you are to actually do it. So, too much information is definitely going to put you off, isn't it?
Right.
But my feeling was, so this was my dream, that I would have this fabulous showroom full of wonderful clothes made of fabulous fabrics, and any individual could walk in and choose any garment and customize it to exactly the way they wanted it, and we would custom make it to fit. That was the dream. Okay, well, that was the vision when I started the business. And then what would happen was that I would take the little girl to school. And I would come into my showroom, which would be fully booked, and then I would say bye-bye to everybody about 5:00, and I'd go home and play with her and have her dinner together and put her to bed, and that would be my life. And I would only work Monday to Friday because this business is so successful. I didn't need to do anything else, right? But of course, none of that happened. None of it.
Welcome to entrepreneurship.
Yes. So I basically, it just didn't occur to me that the clothes wouldn't fit. And I just had these. So there was two big obstacles when I started this business, and I was convinced that I would be able to overcome them. I just didn't realise it would take me as long as it did. But one was that it was very difficult to get clothes to fit with just a set of with measurements. Mm-hmm. Secondly, nobody wanted to manufacture for me, because manufacturers want 5,000 units. They don't want one.
That's right. Yeah.
Every single garment we produce is different. Every single one.
Okay, so before we get into the details of the business, because I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued because, just a quick backstep. So first of all, congratulations on getting out of banking, because I think that every time I hear someone, because I've been there, Sarah, I've been there in the trenches where I'm like, oh, I got to do something else. I know that, there's something else out there for me. This is not it. This is not my future, where you're just smiling and dialing away. And so I get really excited when I hear about or interview or speak to sort of ex-bankers that have come out and they've made it and they've found their freedom or what have you. So first of all, congratulations on that. And it must have been sort of, obviously it must have been scary at the time, the financial crisis. You just adopted a baby and you're going off on your own. Were you sort of financially already stable, as in you'd had enough put away for a couple of years? Did you have sort of a fallback plan, like, oh, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to go back into banking? What was your sort of thought process back then?
See, that would have been a sensible thought process. No, I didn't have that one. So what I did go back into banking when the little girl was very young. I went to work for a very good friend of mine in Hong Kong. Her company had recently opened an office in Singapore, and they needed a responsible officer. So they allowed me to be that responsible officer, and I worked 2 days in the office and 1 day at home. And I did that for a while, and then the company was bought, and then I had to work full time. And it was then that I just was leaving work at 7 a.m. and coming home after she'd gone to sleep, and I never saw her. And I just kind of thought, I'm a single mother. I didn't adopt a child never to see her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on the financing side, what I did was long time ago, I bought an apartment in London. Now it's like almost 20 years ago now. And I sold it and put the money into this.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
But actually what happened, I raised some money from family and friends as well. Right. So I asked some family and friends, and they said, yes, here's some money. And of course, that again is terrifying because once somebody else gives you some money, you've got a business to run.
Right.
So up until that point, I kind of had it in my head that if I didn't raise any money, it wasn't meant to be. And the moment two people gave me some money, I was like, fuck. Oh, sorry, you edit that word out.
You're fine. You're fine. This is this is
And I
this
don't
is the beauty of having your own podcast. You can say whatever the dude you want on it.
And then 2 years later, I raised some more money with an institution. It's a sort of a family office come fund and so I raised some secondary funding and that was really for the technology, to build out the technology. So,
Nice.
Sort of going back to the issues that I had on the fitting, I needed to find a solution to get clothes to fit. And to do that, I became an accidental geek, basically, because I didn't know anything about technology at all. I mean, you probably appreciate this, but when you work in a big investment bank, you have like a button that's like the help desk.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And you press the button and the guy comes and stands next to you and says...
You call the IT guy and he just sorts everything out.
Exactly. You don't care how it works.
Yeah.
Just as long as someone else is making it work, basically. Yeah. So I didn't know anything about technology at all. And I think in a lot of ways, technology has become much less scary. And I'm very fortunate that I was here at a time in this particular industry where technologies are available today that just didn't exist 5 years ago. 3D body scanners and 3D CAD software and that type of thing. So it's been like a stepping stone journey to get to where we are now. And the journey's taken us. We're now using algorithmic coding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who would think that those two words would ever go with?
When we were in banking, we used to talk about these sort of VWAP engines and stuff. And I used to have customers who would say to me, "How does your VWAP algorithm work?" Which I would reply, "Can I get one of my colleagues to call you back because they know way more about it than I do, and they're going to talk you through in much more detail." When the reality was, I didn't know anything.
That's so funny. The view, yeah. We have a lot of finance investors and listeners, so I think a lot of people will appreciate your story as well. So now let's talk about the business, because I think that one of the coolest things that I experienced when I came to Hong Kong first, way back in 2005, was, oh, I got to go get fitted for a suit, right? So I know for guys, it's a big thing because it's relatively cheap. I think the prices have gone up a little bit now because of rents and this sort of thing. But back then, you could get a custom made suit from Sam's Tailor or whatever you want, and go over to the TST and get your suit done for a couple $100 US, and it fit pretty well. And they had their master cutter there, and I don't know how they sort of put it together, but they got it done in a very short amount of time, and shirts as well. And so it's sort of like a stock thing, right? Everyone in banking in Hong Kong has like all the same look. They have all the same materials and fabrics and this sort of thing. So I know that it's a huge thing, but then I was always curious, because on the women's side, I actually at one point I bought some suit material for my wife, because she was into blazers a lot. And she's not in the industry or anything, but she liked to wear blazers casually with jeans and this sort of thing. So I got her some material, and I was asking the tailor, I was like, do you do like women's stuff? And he was like, no. And so I asked a few different people, and none of the guys would really do women's stuff. And so I was like, I don't know. So the suit fabric's still sitting in my closet. So I was always wondering, okay, I guess women don't really, do this sort of tailoring, or maybe they just like to buy off the rack more. So I feel like you've actually entered a very, very strong niche, because it's literally, there's no one doing it, right?
No, there isn't anyone doing it. We're the only people. There are a few companies doing it overseas, but in Hong Kong, there's virtually nothing. And do you want to know my feeling about why there's no one doing it? It's, again, I always think, maybe I should have asked myself that question when I started the business.
Was it? It was a personal pain point, I guess, that you wanted clothes that fit better, and then so you decided to just make them yourself.
100%. Well, so I was in, sales in the bank, and I had to wear suits, and it was just really hard to get them. So you would, I'd spend such a long time trying to find something nice, and when I did find something that I quite like the look of, it never fitted very well. And I would always think, gosh, I wish I could change this, or I wish I could change that. And the other thing that, with women's workwear, they are really like workhorses. You can't you tend to wear the same thing over and over and over again, and separate the wardrobes. So there's one for work and there's one not for outside of work.
That's
and
right.
it gets really kind of battered, and you'll sit in that suit for a really, really long time. So first thing in the morning until you might even go out after work and
Yep.
go on a business trip, and so they need to be pretty well made and nice fabrics. But the reality is, it's just so hard to get anything that's just wasn't either black or grey or even navy, maybe. So nothing. There was nothing kind of edgy. So, and I didn't seem to be the only person that really wanted this. So that's why I set up Isabella Wren, and it wasn't to make men's clothes for women, which is what some men's tailors do.
Right.
So the idea for us was to actually to be a fashion brand, a professional women's fashion brand, but any garment would be custom made to fit, and any garment could be customized to exactly the way you wanted it. So if you want to have below the knee, or you want short sleeves or long sleeves or 3/4 sleeves, you can have anything you like. Nothing is outside the realms of what we do here. And that's the product offering that I wanted to give.
That sounds like it would be highly in demand. Can you walk us through the customer experience? Say someone is it done online, or is it do you guys have a retail store?
We have a showroom. So when I set up originally, and I didn't have proof of concept, I didn't want to make a massive investment in a ground floor space without knowing that this was actually something that was going to be successful, that it in demand and would work. So I took our showroom is on the 11th floor of a building in Central. You can come in here and we have a 3D body scanner, and we can take hand measurements, or you can go online and go onto our website and enter your measurements yourself, or you can go to...
Where's the showroom?
We're on Wyndham Street, just next door to Tony and Guy.
Okay, listeners, you head over to Sarah's showroom.
There you go.
we'll have it linked up in the show notes. I'm plugging you here, so
you can absolutely. We have a party; they can all come and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, basically. And you can also, we've done some agreements with third parties. There's a company based out of Australia called Import, and they have put scanners into a lot of the Westfield shopping malls. They also have them in LA Fitnesses in the US. You can go in there, be scanned in one of their scanners, and the data will come into us if you choose to go on our websites. So you can actually, it's your choice. You go online to our website. If you've been scanned in an Import scanner, you can.
Okay.
Your measurement data gets imported to us. So we can then make your on-demand clothing using your measurements taken from there. And then the other thing which is happening, which is to be honest with you, is so exciting that it's literally game-changing. If you think about how big the online apparel business is globally, and I think it's up to 40 or 60% of it gets sent back because it doesn't fit. There's a vast weight of money behind finding a solution to making online clothing, to basically online clothing sizing.
Right.
Not custom clothing, but just actually sizing ready-made clothing. So, but with that in mind, they have to be able to take data points from bodies, which we could use to make clothes, and we're kind of talking to at least I think 6 companies right now who are really close to finding a solution where you can just use your iPhone to scan your body and it will capture your body data.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that does sound game changing.
It's very close. I mean, there are so many people working on it, and there's so much weight of money behind it.
Yeah, right, sure. At what point did you incorporate technology? Because so obviously, there's fashion tech is a big thing, but for someone like yourself, at what point and how did you even get introduced to this technology? How did you acquire it? At what point did that come along? I mean, like, what was the thought process there?
Sometimes they say when you think something bad has happened, it's actually something good. It was Shakespeare said, right? We don't know what's good and bad, or it's our mind that tells us so, right?
Mm.
When I first started the business, I started at the end of 2013, so right at the end. So, and I think it must have been literally a month after I opened, so early 2014. We had this amazing pattern maker, fantastic, and from Ralph Lauren,
Wow.
and he fell out with somebody from in the workshop, and he walked out. Um, and he also deleted every pattern that was on the system on our computer.
What? Wow.
So it was awesome. So, I mean, the good thing was that the guy did not know anything about technology and he did not empty the trash. It was like a phew. But it was one of those aha moments in terms of, you know what? I've invested a vast amount of my own money and a lot of other people's, and our whole business is dependent on that man.
That's crazy. Wow.
We couldn't make anything because we didn't have any patents.
Hmm.
We didn't have a pattern maker. So I that made me start to look at other ways where I would be less vulnerable. So I started to look at freelance pattern makers. I met this amazing guy randomly on a freelance website. He just so happened to be he'd been working with Alexander McQueen for a long time. And he was the senior lecturer at Central St Martin's on pattern making.
Wow.
He spent a lot of time with me actually, and he never charged me anything. Literally on Skype, explaining pattern making to me.
Wow, that's incredible.
And yeah, it's funny how certain people come along and they're just so incredibly helpful. And
Yeah.
so from there, he said there are a lot of freelance pattern makers out there using technology. So, and at that time there were systems where you could have pattern makers working remotely. So that took me along to how do we capture accurate body data, because
Right.
very well having people doing patterns. So I started working with a 3D CAD system, which was again remotely, and putting in a 3D scanner. So I had one of the first ever 3D scanners.
Wow.
It was almost like taped together, basically, literally taped together. I mean,
So was it like one of those things where you go through like security at the airport where you gotta like walk into this chamber and you have to get scanned?
no, it was probably a bit more like playing on a Wii machine.
That's good.
So no, it was literally you have on your Wii machine, and you were standing.
Right.
Basically, I would take 3 photos on this Wii camera, connect, and that would get sent through to a processing center, and they would then give me back a whole set of body measurements and an avatar. And an avatar is a 3D body scan. That's what it looks like when it's inside a computer. So I would get avatars that I would then put inside a piece of 3D CAD software. I'd put in a 2D pattern, and the pattern maker would wrap the 2D pattern around the 3D avatar. So that's where that was kind of stepping onto the sort of the technology journey along this path, and that worked well. But to put the avatar inside the software, the avatar needs to be smoothed down, as the software can't read it if it's got bumps on it. And removing the bumps, you lose some of the sizing data. So then the accuracy goes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of places like where the sort of top of your arms meet your body, that it gets noise. And to shave away that noise, you end up losing the accuracy. So it was better. So I'd gone from kind of like people needing maybe 6 fittings to needing 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was getting better. And 2.5 years ago, I basically met the fantastic Mark Close, who has a company called Bespokeify. And Bespokeify had been using algorithmic codes to make tools for mining companies.
Wow.
And he worked out he could apply the same principles to clothing patterns. And he, at that point, had literally just started, and he'd made a man's shirt with some degree of success. So we said, should we see if we can make a dress? And he wrote a pattern, and we made the dress. And I have to say, it was like a Kitty Hawk moment. I was like, oh
Wow.
my God, a piece of
That's incredible.
can make a clothing pattern in a second that actually fits. But it wasn't quite right. It was good, but it was still off a little bit. And we made a decision there and then that if we were going to do this, and it was potentially game changing, like he knew what he had and I knew what he had. And so I think we really need to make this 100% accurate. And so we agreed that he would go away and he would write the code down to 0 and write it back up. I call him Sir Mark because he's a genius.
By the way, really cool name, Bespokeify. That's such an awesome startup name.
Yeah, he's super cool. It is cool. And he's won awards from Future of Fashion, and he's been sort of dubbed as the future of fashion, basically.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Okay, so let's say my wife wants to go into your store, Sarah, and she now the technology is I imagine is much more advanced and improved. So she goes in and she gets her. How long does it take to get her sort of 3D measurements done?
To be honest with you, the measurement capture is under a minute, and the patterns are instant, but our average customer spends on their first visit between 1 and 5 hours in here.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys have a spa there or something?
People get carried away. It's the perfect scenario, right?
Right.
Everyone's always dreamed of, that they could go in and every single thing in that place will not only fit, but it will look good. It's going to make you look slimmer. It's 100% going to fit, and you can do anything you want to it, and it's fast and accurate. Right.
Wow.
So women get carried away. I mean, we get a lot of visitors coming in from overseas, people that have been referred to us, and and it always happens, and it does make me giggle. I should video them. The day they come back to pick everything up, they come in to collect everything. They almost start panicking, like they haven't bought enough.
Oh wow. Wow.
They it's almost like they think I'm hiding clothes somewhere that they haven't seen. What else is there? What else?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what is the turnaround time on an order? Where does the order actually get manufactured, and what sort of price point are you setting for these bespoke items?
Okay, so we suggest that the turnaround time would be around 2 weeks, and we say that because we generally have, we often have a backlog of orders, but we've turned a dress round in 3.5 hours.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we had a lady who was visiting, and she was a VIP at one of the hotels, and she needed a dress for the races.
Do you charge extra for that?
Actually, no, we didn't. We didn't.
Should have.
I know. I just kind of, we've got a really good relationship with those people, so I kind of think it's,
Yeah, sure. Give and take.
So we can do it very fast, and on average, it takes around a day to turn around a dress. A couple of days for a jacket, but we have our own workshop, which is in Fuji in China.
Okay.
What we've actually done there is we've developed a manufacturing platform. So, for instance, if another brand was in the sort of position that we're in, that they wanted to start a custom clothing company, and they will not get anyone to manufacture for them. And if they do, it's going to be very poor quality and prone to error. And, the whole process for us is kind of, in a way, we've paved the way for other people to do the same sort of thing. And, errors on very sort of bespoke customizations, you tend to get mistakes. And we've put a system in place which it makes it impossible to make a mistake. It's very visual. So we were using 3D models, and they snapshot the final garment in a 3D visual. So the person who's making the garment can just follow the images. They don't need to follow handwritten instructions, or nothing can get lost in translation. This is pictorial.
Right. Right. And who actually does the designing of your pieces?
So we have a qualified, very experienced designer who specialises in, or who has always specialised in, women's professional wear. Again, she was like, it was like the, the angels were shining down that day when she came into my life. This made so she designs all the silhouettes, and she also runs a whole production office, and she's amazing.
Wow.
Then what we do together is we sort of scour the globe, finding the best possible incredible fabrics, and then we put together a whole collection based on those. We just use those silhouettes.
Right. I think, I think this is definitely, with the technology and the speed and basically the turnkey nature that you set up, it's definitely game changing for sure.
So especially with the fact that we're also developing the on-demand manufacturing platform too.
Yeah, right. That's definitely the logical way to go. Tell the audience a little bit about your plans for 2018, this year, and the future of Isabella Wren.
Okay, so I think we are actually we'd like to expand. I think logically for us, the next step for expansion would be the US.
Nice.
I think we're ready now to have some kind of retail presence in Hong Kong and move out of this showroom. So I think it's relative to sort of our customer base for professional women. So ideally, it would be kind of sort of further into the heart of Central, if we can, and to increase our online presence and expand the on-demand manufacturing significantly. We're looking at laser printers, that sort of basically the software from the pattern making and the when I say laser cutters will all talk to each other, and then automating some part of the sewing if we can. So, because it's very artisanal,
right,
our product, and we keep that artisanal feeling about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the allure of this sort of business, and having just that personal touch, and being able to actually engage with you, the founder, if need be. I think that's very special. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. It was very intriguing and interesting, and thank you for sharing your story with the audience, with my audience. And I guess just a last couple of questions. The second to last one would be, as an entrepreneur who has come out from the banking system and has successfully launched your own company, for say aspiring entrepreneurs and maybe people that young startup founders that are looking to start their own company, what's one good piece of advice you could give that you could share with the audience?
I think one of the if you really you've got a brilliant idea and you're very determined, and you have the financial backing, I think that's very important, is to make sure that you can afford to do this. It's interesting because I looked at some research on a lot of companies that are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, with a wonderful idea and a wonderful business plan, and that just unfortunately just didn't raise enough money.
Yep.
And to keep it going, and so just obviously make sure your funding's there. And also just, everyone has problems, and particularly when you're doing something that you can't copy somebody else because it's never been done before.
Right.
So that you've got nobody else's experience to go on, and you're going to sort of, you're going to hit pitfalls, and there's going to be issues, and not to worry too much about the issue, and think more about a solution to the problem. To focus on solutions and not problems, because everybody has problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's very true. Even the copycats, if you try to be whatever of Hong Kong or whatever. I mean, everything is different. there's no two companies that are exactly the same. So you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Well, thank you so much. The last question was just simply, where can people find you, follow you, connect with you, maybe learn a little bit more about Isabella Wren? Or are you on social media? Any of that?
Yes, yeah, we are. We absolutely. So we have a website, which is www.isabellawren.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I personally am on LinkedIn, and so is the company. And as you mentioned, that we will be at the startup conference at the end of the month, which we're very excited about. And yeah, I mean, I think and I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but we are as part of this expansion, we are hoping to close out another round of financing this year as well.
Oh, fantastic! That's great.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of the first quarter, if not before.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. So we've got some really amazing strategic partners that we're talking to at the moment.
Excellent. So for the audience listening in, Sarah is a speaker, I believe. You're a speaker at the forum, right? So January 31st, which is the Retail's Cutting Edge. You can get your tickets online. I'll have links all up in the show notes and everything linked up for you for her website, where you can follow her, find her, or even maybe go in and get measured for those female professionals out there. And also, I will have a special link with a place to buy tickets for the Retail's Cutting Edge event at the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival. So, Sarah, thank you so much again for your time. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and hearing your wonderful story. And I wish you the best of luck. I always root for, not only for bankers that get out of the system, and successfully start startups, but for Hong Kong entrepreneurs, because that's special to me, and Hong Kong is my home. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All the show notes and links can be found over at jkimshow.com. Come back often and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of The J. Kim Show. I'd love to hear your comments. You can find me on Twitter at jkimmer, JayKimmer. See you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Hack Your Fitness, the high achiever's guide to getting ripped in under 3 hours a week. If you're anything like me, you're probably working a full-time job or jobs and trying to find time to balance family life, social life, and last but not least, fitness. Look, I get it. I'm a full-time investor and entrepreneur myself, and father of two. So how am I able to stay fit year-round without spending hours and hours in the gym killing myself on the cardio machine? After struggling for the last 15 years trying every workout and diet under the sun, I finally designed a system that allows me to achieve and maintain single-digit body fat for life in under 3 hours a week. Cardio not required. Head on over to hackyour.fitness and download my free 13-page guide that teaches you the simple science behind efficient fitness and smart nutrition and gives you everything you need to know to finally take control of your life. That's hackyour.fitness.